Help a brother out, you know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, this movie is not as bad as you've heard it to be. During the Super Bowl, they released a trailer for a movie called Cloverfield Paradox. It interests basically just about everybody because the Cloverfield movies are really good at doing the advertisement. They always have some unique way of showing their movie off. And this time, they went the Beyonce route and kind of just said, you know what? I'm releasing a movie today. Now, this film, to me, was really good. A few things later on in the movie that stop it from being great because the logic just all of a sudden just gets thrown out of the window for entertainment and betrayal, but I'll get into that. Score. The score for this is just insane. Literally every single track beautiful than that. That's why I call it the score. The music heightens tension, it adds emotion, it does so many things that adds to the story. Without the score, this movie would be just as bad as you've heard. I don't really understand why so many critics have like panned this film. It's not a bad movie. I don't get it. They're almost like the guy at the end of the movie screaming on the phone, tell him not to like this movie, tell him not to like this movie, tell him not to like this movie. Movie starts off with them in the car and they're talking about how there is a lack of energy on Earth, and apparently the space station and all of the United Nations of space are going to try and get them infinite energy. They slightly mention that they had a family and that all this stuff. You kind of get that there is a little something going on, a bit of a connect as well as a disconnect between the two, but we learn more about that later on. So they go up into space with people from all different kinds of countries, and it was supposed to be only 6 months. You find out after the credits, it has been 2 years. I believe the number was 694 days. Every day they've been trying to use this accelerator. I'm guessing every single day. I'm sure it has to recharge or something, but they've been trying. After the credits, our main character, Ava Hamilton, starts Skyping with her boyfriend. And she, quote, says, "I'm sorry I woke you up." I don't think people look like that when they wake up. He looked pretty refreshed. People when they wake up, "Hey, baby, how are you?" This brother is sitting there, coffee and something else in his hand. He been awake. You just woke up. Every window, I guess, is like a projector screen or a TV. I don't know, it's space. You get a look at the ship and oh, once again, the score of this movie is beautiful. Another thing I like about this movie is it breaks the trend in Hollywood of white people being stuck in space. Instead, they actually get a whole bunch of different nationalities. We got from China, Britain, Ireland, the US, and the brother from the US. I don't know. I don't feel like Trump's America would do that. Germany and Russia are there too. The timelines, I'm gonna have to get into that in a whole nother video about how this connects to the other Cloverfields. We find out they don't just do space things. They play foosball. They eat plastic space bagels. They have long speeches about what they've done and have race wars. Germany is apparently prepping for war while Russians are supposedly starving. Basically, this ship is like World Star Hip Hop United Nations edition. There's fighting and cursing. They pray and the atheists stand their ground. They start using the plot starter, aka the particle accelerator. If I was going to explain the particle accelerator, from what I've read, basically, it opens up a membrane of space and time and multiple dimensions. As the guy explains on the TV, it could release demons and monsters and all kind of creatures. But the thing is, he sounds crazy, so nobody believes him. But this accelerator shatters reality and basically opens up the dimensions to intersect, causing literally what Cloverfield is. And shit goes crazy, and windows break, and they're bouncing up from ceiling to the window to the wall. Insert a Lil Jon joke there. Then we start getting to my issues with the film. When something goes wrong, they split up, and then two of them run down a hallway to either the same destination or just another part of the ship. Why is there this rule that only two of them can go down a hallway and look for a problem? Except this first scene. There's four of them. But other than that, no more than two people running down a hallway. I'm saying if the space was too tight to shoot more than two people in a hallway, that's fine. But it comes off as really weird during certain situations where everybody heard something and they were all in the same room, but they started running down hallways, just two of them. Space shit happens, and then one of the most intense moments I've ever seen in a film in a long time happens. They can't find the Earth. The accelerator, did it destroy the Earth? Did it move the Earth? Or did they move? I would have pulled out the cyanide right there. They come to terms with what's going on, and then they hear a sound. And then we're back to two people in a hallway. Unnecessary jump scare. What's in the wall? Oh my god, there's a white girl in the wall attached with all these black plugs and wires and cords. Bukkake must be in town. No, but for real, that was one of the most gruesome moments I've ever seen in a while. It's not looking good for this white girl. She calls Hamilton by her name, but Hamilton's not wearing her name tag. Oh, shit. They get all of the black cords out of her, and then we're back on Earth. Mike wakes up, and apparently Earth is in shambles right now. He goes on movie Reddit and finds that out. And I'm like, no shit, did you just hear that explosion? Back in space, the crew is freaking out. And then we get to my second issue with this film. The Chinese woman Tam only speaks Chinese throughout this entire movie. She either knows some English and can slightly understand them, or she's just in the room not knowing what the fuck is going on. I'm literally sitting there like, how do you know what they're saying? You haven't spoke English one time this entire movie. Hamilton and Schmidt are the only ones I've heard speak Spanish to her. And you can't tell me that they've translated everything that's been said, because they didn't. Rant over. We get a foosball representation of the destruction of mankind, and it's half funny and half terrifying. The Russian guy starts acting weird, and I mean, I don't know why. Did the Russians put cyanide in him for in case of emergency? I don't really understand the eye thing. Like the seizure, I'm like, okay, that makes sense that it was a cyanide, but what? The worms are missing. Oh wait, they're in Volkov. So they change dimensions, and the picture on the wall changes from Tam being the shepherd to Jensen, the blonde girl that was in the wall. The plot thickens and becomes more complicated. Miley Cyrus, or Mina, wakes up and she doesn't recognize who Tam is. She's like, what are you talking about, shepherd? I'm the shepherd. Apparently in this dimension, she's the shepherd on the ship, and Hamilton isn't even on the ship. Hamilton is on Earth with her family. Schmidt is outed by the woman in the wall. I really like that name. And in this dimension, Schmidt is actually a traitor for Germany. I guess you're not bound by a certain dimension's rules or consequences or something. Like he's a traitor, but he's not a traitor in the regular dimension, but he is in this one, but he doesn't know that he is in this one. This is confusing. We go back to Michael, and he's driving through the ruins, and he finds a little white girl, and they kick off the sequel to The Last of Us. And I'm gonna just say, I don't know anybody who at the end of the world, the first thing they do is go to work. Unless you going to check if your deposit is still gonna go through. Mundy gets his arm stuck in the wall for talking all that shit about the woman in the wall. They pull him out, and where is his arm? Then there's the little issue that I have with this scene. Pain or no pain, he should have noticed immediately as he is trying to lift himself up. The way he gets up implies that he is literally either using all of his core strength or both of his arms. Call me nitpicky, but go back and watch it and tell me it don't look like he's getting up with both of his arms. My theory of Monday would be maybe he only has one arm in this dimension. So that's why it doesn't hurt him when his arm went away, because it's already been gone. Like when Monk looks at it, he said it almost looks as if he was born this way. In this dimension, he is. The door opens for Schmidt, and I have no idea why. Plot. And don't tell me that it was Monday's arm, because Monday's arm can barely get down the hallway how slow it's going. They cut open Volkov, and the power cell is inside of him. I don't know what's going on in this dimension, but stuff is getting weird. Next scene, they put it back into play, and there is no blood or anything that was on it before, so I guess we can assume that they cleaned it off with the many napkins laying around the space station. We get a bunch of constant arm jokes that will either have you laughing like I was or have you rolling your eyes. They find Earth. Yes, a version of it. A version where World War III is actually happening, which is pretty funny because a bunch of those nations that are in the war are on that ship right now. Let's see how that patriotism go. Once again, everybody now seems to understand Chinese, and she seems to understand English. So it begs the question of why keep speaking two different languages. Everyone around you speak English and you understand it. Why don't you speak it with them? Then again, why have only two people in the film spoken Chinese to her if everybody understands it? I just don't. I don't think they thought about that one. The Last of Us continues, and it almost sounds like it's just a normal commute. For all these aliens and all this rubble and stuff to be happening, if you listen to the scene with him in the car with the little girl, it just sounds like they driving on a normal road, no explosions, no problems, nobody driving fast. It's just your daily, nightly commute. So remember Volkov earlier talked about how he's been stopping all breaches from air and water and all of that, and now that has changed because Volkov is dead. Tam dies in her not Penny's boat moment. I hope you get that reference. And once again, this is where the film shines, because every death, every moment, almost every moment carries some kind of weight. You feel you feel for every character, not just the ones that left, but the ones that are left behind. Except one time. I will say, when they came to help Tam, thank God they didn't do the two-person in the hallway thing. Then they make the dumbest decision that they could have made and decided to make Jensen the shepherd. You know, the stranger, the one we've been weary of since we met her, the one who has been trying to turn us against each other, and we could easily just tell each other what she said, but you know what, we're just not going to because movie. Back on Earth, things turn red and dishes shake. The big reveal that Ava's family is actually still alive in this dimension. This is not only a big moment and changing her character motivation, but now she almost has to choose between her happiness and familiarity. She had gotten used to the Earth that she was on, but now she could end up in another Earth on another dimension with her family. Would they be different? Would she be different? It's a lot of questions, a lot of intrigue, but yeah, don't expect a payoff. He tells Keel, and the thing is, he realizes that if different versions of ourselves exist in these dimensions, that's not her family. That's another person's family. Another version of her family. You know what? I'm stop. So they let some oxygen in, and all of a sudden, the wall becomes a magnet, and Monday dies. An explosion happens, damaging the ship, and they have to detach part of it. We get another amazing sequence of them trying to go across this beam in order to go to the other part of the ship, which is pretty tense because they have their spacesuits on, but gravity is unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen with it. Special effects, the visual effects, the score, everything about this is just top notch. The acting, everything about this scene. And then the brother dies, and once again, It's another death handled so well. This film is so good at handling death. When you see that tear drop from her eye, I was done. And critics hate this film. Why? Is it because it's hard to understand? Irrelevant things are happening on Earth until Mike decides to make a video. A very touching video, and I just, okay film. And then at this point the film decides to take a nosedive into shit and no logic, and I just don't get me wrong, it's entertaining at this point, but man, all logic just goes away. Mina turns on Hamilton and goes on a killing spree, and if you're surprised, raise your hand. So she hits her with that gun. Let me talk about that gun. That gun looks like it's $2 at the flea market. What is it? My friend called it bagel gun. That gun looks so crappy. It's like one of those kid space guns that you'll get at a flea market that's like $2, and it comes with it don't even come with like little rubber darts. It's just it's just that little gun, and it goes pew pew. And I kid you not, after she hits her with that gun, she's about halfway down the hallway and she wakes up. They're headed towards the new Earth, and she has to abort that. You see on the monitor Mina walking down the hall all robotically with her gun. Nobody walks like that. What's going on? This movie was so good. What happened? This part, don't get me wrong, is intense. It's fun. It's a big crescendo. The thing is, you're led to believe that Hamilton is the only one who is looking at a monitor right now. Earlier, someone turned on an intercom and said an announcement to the entire ship. And we're led to believe that that intercom system just doesn't exist anymore. Unless it is explained that that was what part of the ship that got broken off or whatever. It comes off as just stupid. We're led to believe she's the only one watching a monitor, and that the intercom system isn't working because she doesn't warn anybody. You got this big Olga split blonde bitch walking down the hallway with a gun, and nobody sees or says anything until they're shot. Even after the gunshot happens, the sound just doesn't reach anybody else. It only reaches Hamilton. She's the only one who hears it, and then she's behind running, and I'm just like, nobody else heard these gunshots. Monk is shot off screen, and Mina takes his key, and this is the one death that it didn't seem like they gave a shit about. When I say that it wasn't handled well, it's because not only was it glossed over, but the logic and legitimacy of it is called into question just minutes later. Schmidt gets shot in the chest, and you hear it. But for some reason, Schmidt didn't hear when Monk got shot in the chest. And then Jensen reveals that them coming there literally has wiped out the existence of her crew. Almost never existed. All of her progress, like her being up there 2 years, all that has been erased by the dimensions clashing. She believes that killing them will save the world because they are the people who are causing all the dimensions to get like this. They're the ones who are responsible for all of this. And it's hard to say that she's wrong. A struggle happens and Schmidt is shot and dies. Jensen walks in with her Walmart gun and gets into a fight with Ava, and Ava shoots a glass and Jensen gets sucked in. Like I know how like the air coming in, and so like how like when a plane door comes off you can be sucked out. She shoots the glass and that kind of happens to Jensen, but I guess she plugged the hole. All of a sudden Ava's able to get up and the room is normal, and she's able to escape out of the room without any worry of being sucked out. And I don't even know if the door closes before the suck out could happen, and she's just fine. You're telling me like she just plugged up that hole and all of a sudden like no air was coming out and everything was just fine, nothing was being sucked out anymore? She figuratively has to say goodbye to her family, which would be alive in this dimension, by looking at a screen with them on there, and it's touching. And then, wait, Schmidt's alive. Schmidt is alive, Monk got shot one time and died. Schmidt gets shot twice and he lives. Logic. I'm just gonna say this makes no sense. I don't care how you justify it or what you say. It makes no sense. Basically, they're saying Monk is a little bitch. Oh, don't you go try and distract me with that great score and great acting and an emotional scene. I'm still upset. I'm still upset. I'm just gonna say Gugu Magath. I'm just gonna say Gugu Mabaf Raw is amazing in this role. She reestablishes contact with Earth and everything seems to be going good. It's a happy ending. They're going back to Earth. But wait a second. This is Cloverfield. She's going back to that Earth. To Earth that is occupied by giant aliens. So this isn't really a happy ending. I will say that alien at the end of the movie, every time it pops out, it scares the shit out of me. And I've watched this like 3 times. I can't believe they don't mention anything to them about the aliens. Like nothing. Just let them come back to Earth. This is the biggest send-off I've ever seen. My rating, if I'm going to give a rating for Cloverfield Paradox, I'm going to give it an 8. The score is great. The acting is top-notch. The movie is about 90% perfect until the end. At the end, it gets really intense and it gets really fun and there's a crescendo, but all the logic is literally thrown out of the window for the sake of things to happen, for the sake of plot forwardness. Is that what I'm gonna call it? I don't know. So yeah, 8 out of 10. If you like this video, any of my videos, hit the like button, share on Facebook, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter at Elon Rich ENT. Also follow me on Instagram at Elon Rich, as well as Facebook.com/Elon Rich. I'm Elon Rich, which makes the most sense, at least in this dimension.
Look at you walking in here looking all pretty and angry and mean and good. I know you didn't get your hair done so you can just sit down and just sit still.
Hey, we trying to have a good time tonight. Let's go, baby.